Welcome to Trig Basics Part 2. Hopefully you've watched Part 1 and you have a better understanding of our 6 trig functions, sine, cosine, and tangent, as well as their reciprocal functions, cosecant, secant, and cotangent. In this video, we're still going to be focusing on right triangles. Okay, there's my right triangle. But this time, we're going to be missing some information, and we're going to be trying to find a variable. So for our first example here, let's say that I know my hypotenuse is 100, and I know my angle up here is 60 degrees. I want to know what is the side length of the triangle that has a 100 unit length hypotenuse and a 60 degree angle there. So this is my x. So there are several different ways you could solve this, but using trig, we are going to set it up as a trig relationship, and we are going to find x. So look at the angle. This was our theta last time. Okay, I'm going to put theta in parentheses next to it just to reference that. And we have the hypotenuse, which is h, and we have this side over here. What side is this when we were working on part 1? Hopefully, you're thinking of the arrow that we shoot to the opposite side, so this is opposite. So I have an angle, I have an opposite side, and I have a hypotenuse. What trig function relates the opposite and the hypotenuse to the angle? Hopefully you say sine, and that is correct, because remember, the sine of an angle is the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. So let's fill in what we know. We know the angle, so it's the sine of 60 degrees. We know the hypotenuse, which is 100. But we don't know the opposite side. That's our x. We've just turned this picture into an equation. And our goal is to get rid, not get rid, but get the x all by itself. So I want you to think of a simpler question. What if I told you that we had 5 equals x divided by 2? How would you get x by itself? Well, hopefully, since you're in a trig class, you'd say, oh, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2, and 10 equals x, or x equals 10. Well, it's the same exact idea, even though we have the trig function. We are going to multiply both sides by the denominator, which is 100. So we get multiply both sides by 100. Those cancel out, and I have just x. And now, the sine of 60 is a function in and of itself. So this 100 is not going to affect the 60. It's going to affect all of this. So we have 100 times the sine of 60. And this is where we would use our calculators. Calculators know all of those trig angles pretty easily. We could work it out a different way, like I said, but right now our goal is to just solve for x. So we've got 100 times the sine of 60, and based on our calculator, we get approximately 86.6 units. And there's our answer. Okay, let's think about this. What did we do? We had our picture. We figured out what side was the hypotenuse, what side was the opposite, and we were given an angle. We used a trig function to relate the angle and the two sides that we have, and that trig function turned out to be sine, because the sine of the angle is equal to the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. Then we set up our equation using what we knew. Sine of 60 equals x over 100. And then we solved for x. Okay, Let's try one more, and then that's going to be it for this video. Alright, here's a little bit of a different triangle this time. This time, there's our right angle. We know that this side is 18 units. This side we don't know. And the angle down here is 4.8 degrees. It's a small angle. Well, first thing we're going to want to do is label our sides. Which one's the opposite, which one's the hypotenuse, and which one is the adjacent. Across from the right angle is our hypotenuse. So there's our H. Now, the angle we are given, this one right here, we're going to shoot an arrow all the way across to the 18. So this must be our opposite side, and D must be the adjacent side. So we don't know anything about the hypotenuse, but I know that the opposite side is 18 and the adjacent side is D. And my angle is 4.8 degrees. Which trig function will relate the angle to the opposite and the adjacent sides? Hopefully you say tangent. So we have the tangent of our angle is the opposite over adjacent. This is the TOA part of SOHCAHTOA. And now we'll put in what we know. The tangent of 4.8 is equal to 18 over A. Our goal is to solve for A. So A is in the denominator, and when A is in the denominator, I like to get it out of the denominator first, so let's multiply both sides by A. Even though I don't know what it is, I can multiply by it. That gets it out of the denominator, and I now have A times the tangent of 4.8 equals 18. Our last step is to get A by itself, now that it's out of the denominator, so I'm going to divide by the tangent of 4.8. On both pieces. So we have A equals 18 divided by the tangent of 4.8, which turns out to be approximately, sorry, I don't know why I changed it to A. This should have been D, my bad. So this is a D. This is D that we were working with, and D is 18 divided by the tangent of 4.8, which is approximately 214. Approximately 214. And there we go. Besides my little mix-up with the variables, everything works out well. So there we have it. This is how you can use the basic trig functions to solve for missing parts of your triangle. I hope you found this video useful, and good luck!